I became concerned on the second day when my wife hasn't left the room. I wanted her to come out and do things around the house, but I don't know what to say to her. Thoughts like if she had harmed herself came to mind, but she's not that type. She would never abandon our kids. Moreover, I have heard noises inside the room, and there was evidence that she left the room to eat something when I took the kids to school. I didn't go to work for a few days, so I stayed home and made sure my kids are taken care of while my wife mourned the death of our relationship. On the third day, my wife came out. I tried to speak to her, but she ignored me. Janet texted me a few times during that period, asking me why I told my wife, and that my wife called her, threatening her. I would later find out that Janet blamed me for everything. She even went as far as saying that I assaulted her to make me appear like a monster. And sure enough, my wife believed her, but she cut ties with Janet regardless. She believed Janet because she said she didn't know who I was anymore, and the husband she knew wouldn't cheat on her, not less have a baby with another woman. The silent treatment went on for a week till she finally opened up to me that she wanted a divorce. I told her that we can go through this, and she said that she would have forgiven me if there wasn't a child involved, and that she knows that the child will be part of my life, and every time she look at her, she will remember my betrayal. I once told my friend about my predicament when Janet started blackmailing me for money, and he suggested that I hire someone to take care of her with the same money that I've been giving her, or mess with her brakes in her car. But I rejected it. Not that I have empathy for her, but because she's now the mother of my daughter. What would have happened to her if her mother was dead? Or what if she was in the car and died when the brake fails? I wouldn't be able to live with myself. After my wife threatened me with a divorce, I kept acting like everything was normal, but we slept on different beds. I was overcompensating and doing more chores around the house. She continued to ignore me and only spoke to me when it had to do with the kids or finances. Since Janet found out that her secret has been exposed and there was no need to continue to blackmail me, she tried another method by texting me that she was going to get a court-ordered child support. I didn't mention it to my wife as we weren't on speaking terms, and I don't want things to get much worse than it already was. Moreover, I haven't even seen her baby girl, and she was 3 years old. It's been 2 weeks since my wife threatened to file a divorce against me, but I haven't seen any tangible action taken to execute that. She hasn't hired a lawyer, and I haven't been served. The only difference was that she was giving me the silent treatment, and we were sleeping in separate bedrooms. She would do little things that shows that she doesn't care about me anymore, like cooking dinner and not leaving any for me. One afternoon, I received a text message from Janet telling me that she wants to speak to me and that we should meet at a restaurant not far from my house. At first, I didn't want anything to do with her, but I had to face the reality that I have a child with her, and I had to develop some sort of lines of communication. And because it's clear she wanted my money and presence in the child's life. When I got to the restaurant, she was there waiting at a table of two. The look of her repulsed me. To me, she seemed like the devil, a used-up woman. I couldn't believe that I fell for her. After I sat down, the waiter came over and asked me what I wanted to drink. I said nothing, and Janet told me that I better relax because we're going to be here for a while. It was almost like she felt like she was still in control. She had gotten used to talking to me any way she wants. I responded that this is not a friendly meeting, and we are here to talk about my daughter. She started going on about how the child is doing, how she can't wait for her to start going to school, how she's struggling as a single mom and needs a babysitter. She somehow knew my wife was going to divorce me. Maybe my wife told her, and she suggested that if she kicks me out of the house, I am welcome to come and stay with her for a short period of time while I think things through. I know the game she's playing, but I wasn't interested. I told her that we're here to talk about the child. I went straight to the meat of the conversation and asked her when she will be available for me to come over and see the child. She said she's available anytime that I am. So I told her that I will be coming over the next day and we should meet at the children's park, not at her place. She agreed to that, and I left the restaurant without so much as a glass of water. When I got home, my wife was waiting for me on the front door. She looked angry. She asked me where I was coming from, like she knew I went to meet Janet. She blocked the door and told me that I'm not getting into my own house and that I should go back to where I came from. All the silent treatment and ignoring me have culminated to this moment. This would be the final engagement before she finally moved forward with filing a divorce. I wasn't going to answer her or do what she wanted, and I was going to sleep in my house that night. I have had enough of this. I didn't want my neighbors to see us fighting on our front door, so I pushed her away from the door like she weighed nothing, and she fell on the porch flowers, and I got into the house. She returned back into the house and held me by my shirt. We started arguing. She was calling me all sort of names, and now I've destroyed our good marriage. I told her that she was the one that was naive. I reminded her that Janet was her mentor. I told her that in her next marriage, she would learn how to screen evil women around her and not introduce them to her husband. She responded that she trusted me and she believed in me. I responded that it's not about trust. It's about pushing Janet on me. We were screaming on top of our lungs, and our kids have already been awoken. She was slowly releasing the grip she had on my shirt, almost like for the first time she was realizing that this wasn't entirely my fault. I didn't go out there seeking for a woman to have an affair with. She was offered to me on a platter. She invited the rattlesnake to our home for dinner. She didn't let me rest that night. We haven't argued like this before since we became a couple. She followed me to the guest room, saying that she can't sleep in the same house with me that night. I pushed her out of the guest room and locked the door to get some sleep, but she wouldn't stop banging at the door for hours. Clearly, I wasn't going to sleep that night. My kids were crying, and my wife didn't care. That was unlike her. I realized how hurt she was, and I made up my mind that I was going to sleep in my car. I need my family to rest. I opened the door and started getting ready to leave the house. She was following me around the house. When she saw that I was getting ready to leave, she started asking me where I was going. Clearly, she didn't want me to leave despite what she was saying. She just wanted me to fight and argue with her. I sat in my car for hours, but I couldn't go to sleep. I made a fateful decision by calling Janet and asking her if I could come and sleep on her couch that night. I knew I shouldn't have done that. I knew I have finally given her what she wanted. The truth is, I have decided that she have won, and my wife has successfully invited the snake and allowed her to steal her family. I could have called my friends, but I didn't. I was just spiteful and doing it out of spite for my wife, even more because I was underslept and tired of this whole mess. For the first time in 3 years, I saw my daughter. Indeed, she looked nothing like me. I was in Janet's living room talking to her when I heard a bang on her door. I thought it was the police or something, but I soon heard my wife calling me outside. Me and Janet had this look of shock on our face. How did she know I was here? I would later find out that she had a GPS tracker on my car and had been spying on my text messages. I was worried that Janet would call the cops on my wife. When I got outside, my wife tried to force herself into Janet's apartment to fight her. She was really looking for someone to fight that night. I have never seen her like this before. I dragged her to her car and she was kicking and screaming. I left my car behind and drove her car back home. She kept quiet on our way home, and we got into the house like everything was normal, like she wasn't trying to choke me to death a few hours ago. It was about 2 p.m. when we got home. I went into the guest room to sleep. Before morning, my wife opened the door to the guest room and quietly joined me in bed. She cuddled next to me like she wanted me to hold her, and we slept quietly till morning. After that day, she didn't invite me to the master's bedroom. She would join me in the guest room. We would make love, then she would leave in the morning. When I received a text from Janet asking me to see her, I just ignored it. This went on for about 2 weeks, till things started normalizing between me and my wife. One day my wife came home with the mail. She had already opened one that was meant for me, and she told me that Janet had filed for child support, and I was supposed to show up to court with my financial documents. Me and my wife were now speaking openly, and she told me that she thought Janet had a boyfriend, and she showed her pictures of her boyfriend. That was news to me because I never knew she had a boyfriend, and I didn't know she was sleeping with another man the same time she was sleeping with me. I knew she got pregnant right about the time we were being intimate. I was certain that the girl was mine. I never questioned it because everything checked out, but still, I wanted a DNA test to be certain that she was mine. When we appeared in court, Janet was shocked when I told the judge that the baby was not mine. I filed a petition asking the court to establish that I am the biological father, so the paternity test was ordered by the judge. I went to the clinic with Janet and my daughter. Janet was mad that the order was issued, almost like I wasn't entitled to confirm whether the child was biologically mine. The administrator at the clinic took my cheek swab and told me that it would take 4 to 6 weeks before the result comes out. The court rescheduled the date of our next court meeting in 8 weeks. Janet wanted the court to issue financial support for her while we wait for the court date, but she was denied until the paternity was established. I knew I was the father, but I was just trying to drag it along. Plus, it wouldn't hurt to be certain before I start paying child support for a child for the next 15 years. Things became normal in my home. My wife accepted the fact that I have a child outside our home. She accepted the fact that I didn't go out there looking for trouble. She invited trouble to our home, and I was too weak and fell for it. On the court date, my wife wanted to come with me, but I refused. She insisted that we're both in this together. When we got to court, she wouldn't stop staring down at Janet. I was afraid that she was going to attack her, but she managed to keep her cool. The first thing that the judge did was to unseal the DNA result, and to my dismay, the child was not mine.